Okay. Before Islam, like I said before, my family wasn't very a religious Christian family. We used to go to church sporadically, not all the time. Easter, possibly Christmas, a wedding or a funeral. I would say about when I was 13, about 1993 or 94, unbeknownst to me, my grandmother was diagnosed with cancer. So maybe a little time before that, they didn't tell us. And at that time, my family members, including my mother, were becoming a little more religious. My mother was becoming a little more religious. And that's where she, she started to attend church a little more regularly. First it was by herself, and then she used to ask us to go, and we were like, no, we don't want to go to church. I want to watch football. That's more or less thing. I want to watch football and stay at home. And then it came to a point where she started making us go. And so we started going to church on a regular basis. In that time, I was about maybe 1993, 94. And my personal feelings towards it, it was it was something that I didn't really like. I wasn't really used to it, and I really didn't take affinity to it at all. My knowledge of Islam at that time was probably more or less not really there. Even though I did have a family member that was Muslim, basically whatever we learned in school, the 5 pillars, Saudi Arabia, Kaaba, something like that, Mecca, those type of things were more or less that at this time also, about 93, 94, a movie about Malcolm X came out. And so my information about Islam became a little more with the history in America. They had what's called the Black Muslims, or the Nation of Islam, and so that was generally what most people thought of when they thought of Muslims and Islam. But you started to clarify that a little more, or that started to be clarified a little more probably after the movie Malcolm X, just a tad bit, not completely, and. I thought it was pretty cool. Shortly afterwards, I started to work for my cousin who was Muslim, and he started introducing me to Islam and to books. I would, in his store he would sell oils and incense, pagers and things of that nature, kind of like a variety store, and. Sometimes I would, if there was a downtime or anything, I would go and read the books that he would have on Islam. And sometimes I would go with him to certain places. Maybe I go with him because he would close down his shop, and go with him on Jummah, on the Friday prayer, and we said at that time. And that was the beginning. My real story of becoming a Muslim actually starts off with my cousin. And it really goes back to his father. My cousin, his mother and my mother are sisters, and he's my maternal cousin. In the 70s, she married a man, a Muslim man. This man, he became Muslim in I want to say 60s, in the late 1960s, maybe 1967 or so, I'm not for sure. Dr. Saidi Liwaru, Allah yarhamu, may Allah have mercy on his soul, he's now deceased. And they got married, they had a child. The child's name was Tariq, or Tariq, as we say. And very shortly afterwards, they got a divorce. You know, I know this is more into his story, but Tariq, he didn't really grow up in my aunt. She had accepted Islam, then she went away from it. And during the divorce, after the divorce, my cousin would stay with his mother. She's no longer a practicing Muslim, doesn't practice Muslim, doesn't profess the faith, and he would go to his father's every once in a while. Once he got older, he started to practice. Decided some events happened in his life, and he started to practice Islam a little more. And that's when he opened up his shop, and that's how I began to work for him. And as a result, in a very weird and quirky way, as a result, I became started to work for him, became an employee, and ended up becoming Muslim. After I became Muslim, I was 15 at the time. He would always encourage me to learn, and so from day one, it was like he would encourage me. He said, "Well, listen, inshallah, you're not married, and you seem pretty smart, and inshallah, so we'll send you to Medina or Mecca or Morocco or Pakistan." This is way before 9/11 and all those types of things, and so we'll send you to some place where you can learn Arabic and learn about Islam and come back and teach us. And so that was always kind of like his encouragement. And during my first 3 or 4 years of Islam, 3 years of Islam, with that encouragement, he informed me about a group of professors coming from the Islamic University of Medina, and he said, "Well, listen, you know, they're going to have interviews and some lessons and interviews. Are you interested in going?" And I said, "Sure, why not?" And so he pretty much left his shop and closed up his shop and left it with someone, and we went to Detroit, Michigan in the summer of 1998, and he took me there, and as a result, I was one of the 13 students that got accepted that year in 1998, and that's how I got over. So I feel that I had a very nurturing Islamic upbringing for the most part, and that's basically how I became Muslim and how I became to study Islam for the most part. When I first became a Muslim in '95, in '95, I became Muslim on Christmas vacation, of all things. I became Muslim Christmas vacation. It took me some time to actually talk to my mom about it, and my other family. And but after I became Muslim, maybe about a week or so, I told my mom. She started to cry. She cried. It was something that was contradictory to her newfound faith, and it was we had some issues in the beginning due to this, but also my other family members, it was kind of seen as something extreme or along those lines, or why would you become a Muslim? My father, though he was divorced from my mother, you know, he told me basically, "You're a young man now, and you can, you know, try and make your own decisions as long as you're happy for it," which is, you know, with that decision. And so that was the main thing. My friends, or who I thought were my friends at the time, you know, I saw them once I started to practice a little more, you know, and abstain from things, because that's the easiest thing to do, is to abstain from. And I started to abstain from things. I saw that I had a lot of free time. People that I thought were my friends and that I wanted to hang out, I had a choice to make. And so either I would go and do some bad things, or hang out with people I shouldn't really be hanging out with, or I can do other things. And so eventually it was kind of a mutual type thing. You know, we stopped hanging out so much. I stopped getting invited to parties, those type of things, and because I was kind of what they call here square, you know, didn't want to do certain things. So